I want to turn off my emotions and just be emotionally numb. Story 1. We didn't really turn off our emotions. We just suppress them when in public and bottle up all emotional trauma, eventually dying of suicide or a heart attack around the age of 45. Story 2. If you really want to turn off your emotions, work in a level 1 trauma hospital in the emergency room. I did that for a few years. I've seen dozens of people die, unfortunately, in all types of ways. The first few were rough for sure, but after that, you get used to it, and then it made me emotionless. Story 3. You do not actually want that. If you are struggling to process something traumatic, look for a therapist that specializes in eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It basically allows you to work through whatever is bothering you and separate the emotions from the event itself, so that when you think about it, you do not find it so triggering. Story 4. I pushed them deep down and numbed myself with moderate to high doses of alcohol and video games. Do not recommend. Experiencing emotions without suppressing or letting them control you is the way. The separation of mind and body is a powerful thing. May you figure this out at an earlier age than I did. Story 5. Many years of practice. Some people call me heartless or robotic. That's not true. I can laugh. I just avoid letting anything get too close anymore. Pro tip: you don't want to be emotionless. It's a great way to wreck your life and make people want to avoid you. Story 6. I am suffering from chronic anhedonia and emotional blunting. People who say they want this to happen to them have no clue how gruesome and dreadful it is to live with this permanently. Story 7. Men do not turn off their emotions. They learn to handle them. If you are in a difficult time, do you think being overly emotional is helpful in the slightest? No, there is a time to handle that, and usually it is not at the time it is happening. Always be rational, be logical, and then when you have time, you can be emotional at the gym. Story 8. You do not turn off your emotions. You learn how to manage your emotions, process what has happened to you, and how to handle yourself moving forward. Story 9. This will not work long term. Trust me, I tried it. I thought I could do it. Suppress emotions, be stoic, suck it up, and take it like a man. I ended up with alcohol and drug use getting out of hand. Do not suppress your emotions. Embrace them. Go to therapy and explore your feelings. You will be much better off in the long run. It is not easy. In fact, it can be quite difficult and painful, but I have come out the other side, and I do not need the crutches of substances anymore. My mindset is healthier, I have cleaned up my health, and I feel so much better. Story 10. Professor Oak's words echo. There's a time and a place for everything, but not now. You can't turn it off, and you shouldn't. What you want is to be able to manage the tap and know when it's appropriate to release the pressure. Story 11. Look at humanity. Millennia of not knowing how to deal with one's own emotions, suppressing them, not taking responsibility for them, blaming others, and compromising on one's emotional needs, wondering why one is miserable. If you want to be mature and live in heaven, just feel your emotions, and you'll discover they will never kill you and will pass on their own. And never forget to breathe and breathe some more. If you want to make this life an endless suffering for yourself and others, sure, numb your emotions. Drink a lot of alcohol, smoke cigarettes, smoke marijuana, and do any drug you can get your hands on. Story 12. As someone who suppressed their emotions for 30 years, trust me when I say you do not want to do that. You do not need to allow your emotions to control you. Let them come and go like guests. Acknowledge them, determine how they make you feel, and let them continue on their way. Just like you would not hold a guest hostage, you do not need to hold your emotions hostage. Story 13. They do not. The people who say they do are depressed and still have their full range of emotions, just repressed. The few who somewhat do are people much higher on the antisocial personality disorder spectrum and can do it naturally. Story 14. It's so sad that men think they have to suppress their emotions to get over something. Guys, talk it out, have someone there for you. People, especially women, love to help out a good friend or family member when they are struggling. There are always people around you who love you. If you suppress your emotions, you'll never truly be able to heal because you pushed it back in. The healing process will just be a cycle of off emotions and on emotions. Then you may spiral. Humans are meant to have emotions. don't suppress them. Honestly, this narrative that you guys don't need to feel or have emotions is ridiculous. Get help instead, talk about it, and heal from it. Story 15. I have a buddy I worked with, a very confident man, sometimes borderline cocky. A person who was a bit of a know-it-all. But whatever it was, nobody who knew him ever questioned whether the confidence in himself was genuine. For years we've known this man and always known him to be this way. Last week he killed himself, leaving the rest of us with the realization that what we saw and thought we knew was only the mask he wanted us to see. Emotionally numb is not a thing. You're better off dealing with your issues rather than simply putting on a face you want the world to see. Or at the very least, recognize what the mask looks like so you're not fooling yourself. Story 16. Avoiding emotions means bottling them up until they explode. You can only dissociate enough from dramas that you don't care enough to feel anything. Feel your emotions when they come and logically step through why you feel that way. Story 17. It's not good, mate, trust me. You won't really get those super emotional reactions, but you'll not want to do anything. No passion, no ambition, no motivation. Stop giving attention to what other people do and say, and be confident in yourself. It's better than starving to try and be a people pleaser. Plus, it's more pleasing for people to have someone who's vulnerable and well-rounded. Story 18, you compartmentalize them and shove them way down deep. Then, when they show up later at an inconvenient time, you go to therapy and actually fix your issues. The only thing about not feeling anything is not feeling anything. Story 19, you cannot will them away, but you can redefine your responses. I successfully willed them away, but it just made more problems for me later. I also would not recommend the severe abuse I had as a child as a method to deaden emotions. Society's truth is a lie being whispered in your ear, making you respond in ways intrinsically opposed to your nature. But if you want to talk, feel free to message me. Story 20, you don't want that. It's part of the process. Numbing is just suppression and will lead to disaster later on, especially when things are going well. It's the wrong question to ask. You don't want to numb, you want to overcome and realize it's all nonsense psychology and biology at the end of the day. You're in charge of yourself and you need to own it. Feel it all and become greater than you were yesterday. Look at all the men of previous generations, especially in your own family or social group, and understand if that even helped them. Story 21. Do not do it. You are just escaping and bottling up until you burst onto someone or something, causing a lot of pain to you and whoever gets in the blast radius. You have to be emotionally conscious, though. It is definitely harder and requires some assistance, but it can be done alone, and it is rewarding. You cease to be a hostage of your whims and can steer clear better from traumatic relapses. It is very hard, though. Story 22. So far, none of us has really achieved Koliner, as the Vulcans call it, so we instead follow the path of Elsa and conceal. We still feel, but we don't express them as we probably should, probably because women might say they want us to do that, but too many of them use it to identify weakness, to exploit or berate you for. Story 23. You cannot turn off your emotions, especially men. Actually, the only significant distinction between men and women is that we have a much larger emotion and memory area of the brain. They have yet to work out the overall meaning, but everything in this life has purpose. If you do not practice shadow work, you will be unconsciously acting out a lot of dark, suppressed stuff. Story 24. I don't know why you would want to do that. Typical old-school stereotype thinking right here. There is nothing wrong with a man who has emotions. It doesn't make you any less of a man if you cry or get angry. Sometimes it's better to let it out than bottle it up until you explode. Story 25. By not thinking of the things that make me emotional. Emotions are reactions to things that happen, and not everything that happens needs to have an emotional response. Get lazy with your thinking about what makes you emotional and don't overthink things too much. Story 26. For me, it was dealing with a major career loss that made me lose my emotions. It made me cold and numb. It is not something you want. Look into Stoic philosophy. It is not about turning off emotions, but properly moderating them. I am still working on that transition. Story 27. There's no such thing as turning off your emotions. You just learn to control them. Sometimes you can't control how you feel, but you can control how you react. Oftentimes, acting emotional doesn't benefit anyone or anything, so we've learned to just stay level-headed in all situations. A trick I use is I always ask myself, how does this benefit anyone? Story 28. Tough childhood will do it. Or trauma. Do note, turned off emotions are not actually turned off. It is this incessant, never-ending buzzing and pain that you do not understand. That makes you anxious, defensive, nervous, insecure, narcissistic. It is a nightmare. You do not want it, you just do not. Story 29. It's not about turning off emotions, as others have said. That would be not only unhealthy but also unwise, as everyone feels emotions outside of genuine psychopaths. What you want to do, which takes years to truly understand and be consistent in, is contextualize and understand that if you feel certain emotions, you should be able to develop tools to manage their intensity or duration, as they don't contribute to solutions. Negative emotions especially create negative health outcomes. The amount of research showing just how bad bottling emotions is, or feeding into their negativity and thereby increasing stress, is significant. This was an eye-opener for me over a decade ago, and now I just don't dwell on any emotion. Practicality and communication are essential, and believe me, it also helps with dealing with the other gender. We can focus on why we feel a certain way and what to do about it, rather than the feeling itself, and avoid creating a vicious cycle that leads nowhere good. Story 30. You do not want this. I have done this recently, and I am going through therapy now to specifically undo this, where I really only allowed myself to feel jovial or neutral, and anything else was forced upon me like anxiety or depression, and I confronted those head-on, which is not healthy. Emotions are good. They are our way of experiencing our mind's reaction to things. Story 31. I'm going to say something controversial. Most therapy is completely useless for men. Most of us do not benefit by opening up about our emotions. Men are practical, we deal with issues by feeling useful. The worst thing a man can feel is useless and helpless. If the problem is something you can't do anything about, then try to focus on feeling useful and solving problems in other areas. For example, if a loved one passed away, maybe go on a solo camping trip where you have to make your own fire, set up a tent, and so on. Keep yourself busy fixing stuff and solving problems. That's male therapy. Emotions are not your enemy. The idea is not to turn them off, but to control and channel them. The thing that does this is something called testosterone, the traffic cop for emotions. A healthy amount of testosterone allows you to control and channel your emotions and use them as fuel for motivation to solve problems. Being emotionless means having zero motivation to do anything. Do you want that? Get more testosterone by doing resistance training. Story 32. I don't think that's what you want. What I want, and probably you do too, is to use your emotions to work for you, not against you. Let's say you're applying for a job, but you were turned down. You're feeling angry and disappointed. So what do? You use these feelings as fuel to take more courses, practice more for interviews, whatever it takes. A roller coaster that goes up inevitably goes down. Is what makes the ride interesting and dynamic. The big picture is, bad emotions can be as useful as motivators as good ones. Once you understand that bad emotions cease to exist, they're all just emotions. Story 33. Suppressing your emotions hinders your human experience. I subconsciously suppressed mine and really wish I hadn't. Seeing people feel joy and sadness is a beautiful thing, and I feel left out not being able to join others in that on an authentic level. Story 34. People can't actually turn off their emotions. They just suppress them, which is very unhealthy. That's how you end up with anger management problems, anxiety, depression, or any number of other issues caused by not dealing with your emotions. Trust me, you don't want to be emotionally numb. I have been on antidepressants that did exactly that, and it was horrible. It nearly destroyed multiple relationships with people in my life because I wasn't able to engage with them the way I used to. I struggled to really care about them or anything else. Being numb doesn't just mean you don't feel the negative emotions. It means you don't feel the positive ones either. That may sound good to you now while you're hurting, but it's not the solution to your problem that you think it is. Humans are emotional beings. We're supposed to feel and process our emotions. Story 35. I promise you that the darkest depths you can fall to are a place where you do not feel anything anymore. Even pain is better than the numbness, and it can be hard to get it back once it is gone. Story 36. You don't turn them off. You practice your poker face when you don't want to show others. And you work on yourself so those emotions don't manifest into bad feelings like anxiety, sadness, or emptiness. Things are always going to bother you. It is how you choose to respond to them that makes them feel insignificant, and it doesn't happen in an instant. It takes discipline, meaning dedicated, repetitious practice until that's your default response to a bad situation. Story 37. I don't turn it off, but for some, I need to shut out, so I practice mirroring. I only give what I receive from them. If they are continually low effort or come only when they need something, then I mirror how they have treated me. That is also how you protect yourself while being open to those who are deserving of your attention.